I realized, oh my gosh, I'm connected to all these amazing people, these homeschool teachers, these missionaries, these vice presidents, these Princeton grads, and I guess I kind of knew some of that. And so then there was that. I was like, oh my God, these people are badasses. And then number two, the second question I think you ask yourself is, who is this person to me?
Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. And now, here is your host, Michael J. Maher.
Welcome, everyone, to another amazing episode of Referrals Podcast. And you're like, Michael, you always say that the podcast is going to be amazing before I listen to the podcast. Well, here's the thing. It's always amazing. I've never had somebody email me, text me, message me and say, Michael, today's podcast was not amazing. I haven't had that, right? I just want you to know everyone is amazing. And speaking of amazing, let me just read you these 3 notes from these really famous people. This is a book for anyone who wonders about the difference between a Facebook friend and a real life friend, and who yearns to see the real life behind a person's Facebook image. It is also about the power of prayer and the abundance of kindness in our world. But ultimately, it's about connection, how we are all connected when we come from love. Rivi Nishama, who is the author of Recipes for a Sacred Life, True Stories, and a Few Miracles. So first of all, how many of you have ever had a friend on Facebook that you're like, I've never met this person in real life, but I feel like I know him and I want to get to know him better? First of all, how many of you have a friend on Facebook where their life can't be that freaking perfect? You know what I'm saying? Like, how is everything so great? They don't share the other part. But you know what I found? People are real. The next one, captivating. I laughed and I cried as I followed the pleasures of real mail. And the lesson hit home. Whether written or spoken, our words matter. They have the power to illuminate someone's darkest day. Lori Buchanan, PhD, author of Note to Self, a 7-step path to gratitude and growth. Also, Amy shows us how something as simple as a letter, let alone 580 of them, can change a life. The stories from these handwritten letters provide insights into how we can help people through difficult times and connect with others. Brad Aronson, the best-selling author of Humankind, Changing the World One Small Act at a Time, which has to be one of the best subtitles I've ever seen ever. Ladies and gentlemen, that's who we're going to be talking to today. Before I get to our awesome Amy, or amazing Amy, that would go in line with the thought, is I'm going to do a shout out from Dave DeBryan about Notevember. He's out of Michigan. He says, I am so ready for Notevember 2023. 10 years, just so you know, this is the 10-year anniversary of Notevember. We've been doing it since 2013. I can't even wrap my arms around this. Look what you have created. Jen has done such an amazing job with writing notes, all caps. You've created rock stars all over the world and soon to be rock stars as the Notevember members sign up and see firsthand what is going to happen to them. I give you 2 high fives. That makes 10 for those of you counting at home for your mastery. Dave DeBryan wrote 990 handwritten notes last November. And of course, me, the coach, got on him and said, like 990? Like, how do you write 990 and not just write 10 more to make it an even 1,000? He goes, my hand was hurting so bad that I couldn't write one more for several weeks. So it's like, okay, all right, that's a good excuse. 990 in 1 month. That's amazing. So with that, I want you to know this is your call to action to join us for Notevember, Notevember.com. Just spell November, take out the no. Who wants to go to a month called November? No, we don't want that. And yes, Vember doesn't make a lot of sense. So how about Notevember.com? You can go to Notevember.com, check it out, sign up for the Notevember challenge, 30 notes in 30 days. Put your appreciation in writing. Speaking of someone who put their appreciation in writing hundreds of times, I want to introduce you to our guest today. Amy Weinland Daughters is a keynote speaker, letter writer extraordinaire, satirist, sports journalist, and author of this brand new book that you're all going to want to get called Dear Dana. And by the way, I have it right here. And just so you know, that's it. Dear Dana. And that time I went crazy and wrote all 580 of my Facebook friends a handwritten letter, and you cannot mess this up. That is the subtitle, people, is that time I went crazy and wrote all 580 of my Facebook friends a handwritten letter, and you cannot mess this up. A true story that never happened. Wow. She is absolutely convinced that when human beings connect individually in a meaningful way, that nothing can separate them. Without further ado, let's welcome to Referrals Podcast, Amy Daughters. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Michael. I am thrilled to be on.
I love it. All right. So, Dear Dana, awesome book, first of all. Everybody that's doing Notevember should get Dear Dana. And they can get that at amydaughters.com. Yes?
Right. Anywhere books are sold, Amazon, independent bookstore, you can go order it. And there's links to it on my website as well. Yes, sir.
I love it. All right. So what inspired you in the first place to write your book, Dear Dana?
Well, Dear Dana, it was I was just minding my own business, Michael, and doing regular life like everyone else is. And I had not written anyone a letter in 30 years. I was on Facebook. I'd worked at a summer camp for years, and I had an old friend named Dana. And, we've all had those moments on Facebook where we remember someone, their name coincides with our online experience. So I put her in, friended her. She accepted my request. We had zero contact for 30 years. And so I, do my light stalking, look at her page, and I realized
check out her family, and she checks out your family, right?
Right. Her hair changed. It's all very shocking, and so I find out immediately she has 5 kids, 4 daughters, and her youngest child, her only son, Parker, has cancer, and he's at St. Jude in Memphis. So it's serious. And so as a human, as a mom, as a person, I immediately became, involved in following along with this story. Parker, she asked for prayers. I prayed. I didn't really say anything. I was working on the periphery. And then when Parker relapsed, went back to Memphis, I was like, it was like a bolt of lightning. I'm a writer. So I was like, I'll start writing them letters. Like, that's nuts because I'm not writing anyone letters, nor have I written anyone a letter. And so, but I was so committed. I was like, I'll write them letters to the Ronald McDonald House. So I did that. I wrote Dana and Parker for about 8 weeks, and it was just like, I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you. We're all supporting you. And I kind of was like, this is crazy. And I knew this was not acting, but whatever normal is, because that's not really how I roll anyway. So I just wrote him. And then I watched as his story followed along on Facebook. We still didn't have any direct contact. And then, tragically, unthinkably, there's no good words for any of it. Parker passes away at age 15.
Wow.
Yeah, and it had nothing to do with me, but I was like, what do I do now? And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep writing. And so we go to like level, DEFCON 2 of crazy, or whichever way the scale goes. Let's go more nuts. And so for 4 months, I wrote her without hearing back, and I kind of had to stalk her husband's work address to find an address because I didn't want to message her and ask her address. So then, after about 4 months, not only does she send me her home address, she starts writing me back. And for 2 years, Michael, we spent in like 2015 and 16 writing letters back and forth. We had no idea what the other person believed, what our socioeconomic level was. We knew what we saw from Facebook. So it wasn't a blind draw.
Yeah.
Like if you think about that person you haven't spoken to in 30 years, and we just started to share and trust each other. And she would share about her grief because I was the safe space somewhere else. I was telling her all kinds of stuff about my life, looking out from the outside in, and it became this profound connection. And I sat back after about 6 months of this. I was like, you know what? If this can happen from this one random girl, like who even is she? What happens? What else goodness is untapped in all these other people? And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? And this is when it went full crazy. I was like, I'm gonna write all these people. So I literally made an Excel spreadsheet and shoved everyone's names in a box. I bought some stationery and I was like, let's go.
All right, hold on a second. You got that. So you made this, let's not call it crazy leap. Let's just call it a giant, generous leap from Dana to, wow, I've got 580 friends. Let's figure this out. So your first step was to make a list of the 580, either in Excel or on a piece of paper. And then if it was in Excel, you printed it out. Yes.
Right.
And then
Correct.
you cut it into so that you had 580 names in what, a box or a jar or on the floor, or where did you have it?
No, I had a little box, and I really wish, in retrospect, if I knew I was going to write a book and like talk to people about this, I would have had some better supplies. But I literally took a box I had just gotten from Amazon and like cut a crude hole with scissors in the top of, shoved all the names in. That was
I
the
love
plan.
it. All right, I love that. So, do you remember like the moment that you leapt from like Dana to your Facebook friends? Like you kind of talked about it a little bit, but was there any goal in mind? Was there anything you were thinking when you're like, I'm going to write these 580 people? Or talk to me about that moment. Like, just like, this is an epiphanous moment. This is a big moment because you're going from one fairly good connection that has turned into a really good connection to like this giant leap of faith, almost, that almost a faith in humanity that they're going to be maybe as open-armed as Dana was,
Right. I think it was over. I remember the several days, and I was on a road trip we had lived in Dayton, Ohio at the time, and I'm from Houston, Texas. So I was driving with my two children, and they were in the back because they were still like, we were in the minivan, the whole 9 yards. And I was driving, and I kept thinking, if this can happen with Dana, what else can happen? And I just had the moment where, and I was so committed. And it made no sense, but I was so committed that I got home from that trip and I got a journal out and I was like, here's what I'm going to do, and wrote my list of rules, like my goals, and here's what I thought was going to happen. Here's, and I really don't think I ever seriously thought I was going to finish or not finish, because it wasn't about that. I was going to start, and I couldn't have stopped if I wanted to. I think to me, everybody can frame this however they want to, but to me, I just had a higher power. It was locked in and loaded. This is what we were going to do.
So what were some of the rules? So what were some of the things that you were going to stay within with writing these notes, right? Or what was your goal with it?
Well, my goal was to finish, and then I'm a numbers girl, so I was like, it's going to be 2.2 letters a day, which I completely, that was a farce until I got once I got in a rhythm, I could do 2 letters a day. But I had good rules, and I don't know. Again, this is why I think this is inspired, because I can't really take credit for this. But it was like a minimum 2 pages. I was going to write the letter before I got the address, because then I wasn't going to be able to get out of getting a letter. I was going to look at everyone's page or whatever before I wrote the letter, and that turned out to be a whole nother just gift that kept on giving. And and those were some of the parameters. There was no getting out of writing a letter. They were going to be handwritten. I had a goal, a time goal in mind, those kind of things. And I journaled the whole thing too. After I wrote, like, my first journal entry was the Facebook project, quite possibly the stupidest thing I've ever come up with. And then I quoted myself. And I did not.
Or the most genius. Or the most genius, I think crazy and genius is a fine line.
It is.
So
you're right.
I love that. So the process, I'm a process oriented people, and it's like, all right, I'm going to write these 580. That's my goal. So it's about 2.2 a day if I continue with this. And here's my process. I'm going to look at Facebook. I'm going to write a letter. In your case, you wrote 2 pages. That's really ambitious. That's a front and back of a plain white sheet, right? And you're going to handwrite it. And then I hope everybody's listening. Then she's going to get the address. What I love about that is once you've written a 2-page letter, you're finding their address. You're going to be like a private investigator to find that address, because guess what? You're committed at this point. You want them to read the letter because you put so much effort into it. I love that process. I love how simple it is. And you talked about checking Facebook turned into being like a gift that kept on giving, like a inspired. It was like you felt like there was a bigger power involved when you started checking Facebook before you write the note. What are some examples of that, or why do you feel that way?
Well, the checking Facebook was just a means to an end. And again, I wasn't trying to inspire anyone or do anything meaningful. I was just trying to, and I'm a goal oriented person. Like I'm going to set a goal, and especially if it's kind of over the top, then I'm going to like be relentless about it. And so I was going to write these letters. And so again, I was just a normal hot, skinny girl trying to stay married. I mean, I wasn't trying to do anything special. But really, if you think about it, the natural process would be, I'm going to write somebody a letter, especially somebody I hadn't seen in 20 years. You got to go figure out what you're going to say. Yeah. So that's step one. So what was so great, and I didn't intend to do this again, is I was looking at people as individuals. I was taking them off the list and saying, oh, and then there was all these great connecting points. Like, so first of all, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm connected to all these amazing people, these homeschool teachers, these missionaries, these vice presidents, these Princeton grads, these, and I guess I kind of knew some of that. And so then there was that. I was like, oh my God, these people are badasses. And then number two, the second question I think you ask yourself is, who is this person to me? So you're going to, it's like a financial transaction where you're going to add personal value to someone. And so let's say you and I went to junior high school. I'm like, oh, Michael, we sat at lunch together and like we were over by the payphone and like there was a lot of shenanigans and we had so much fun. Or Michael from college, who when my grandmother died, you came and picked me up from the airport. And so then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, I can thank these people. I can support them and find out that somebody in their family or they were sick. I can express condolences. So it was really a natural thing. It was not awkward because those 2 points, their real life, which is just as beautiful and messy as your real life, and the fact that they meant something to you, these letters became so meaningful. And I had so much to say that I could have in a million years never guessed. So it was so over and over again. Boom, 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 boom. It was life-changing, this opportunity to express myself.
Well, I love that. I mean, here's what I love that I hope everybody's picking on and picking up on is that, a lot of people do listen to this. They listen through Audible or iTunes and Google, Google Play or Stitcher. And then there's the people that watch on YouTube. And what I hope they're getting is just your passion, Amy. Like you're passionate about this. Your energy around this is attractive. It's very it's inspiring and energizing. Even though you didn't start this off to inspire, you're doing it right now. I just love the passion I'm hearing coming out of you, and that's what I think is you discovered and maybe already knew it internally, but you've discovered the beauty of connection and the beauty of people. Like you said, their lives are just as beautiful or messy as ours is. And that's the truth of it all. All right. So how different are your relationships now with those that you took off of Facebook and you really took that onto a paper relationships? How are the relationships different? How did they change, or did they not change?
No, I think there was such a depthing that I did not understand what a handwritten letter could do, the intentionality. I mean, it really lends to your Notevember and when you did your shout out at the beginning of the show, these people are passionate because this is such a powerful medium, because people know that you matter when you're going to take like all the effort points, it takes to write somebody a note or a letter. And it does not have to be a letter. That's what I like about Notevember. November is not 6-page lettervember. That's overwhelming, Notevember, because the thing is you can do it in 2 sentences, but if you're the girl or guy who needs 7 pages, then go for it. But I think there was a depthing to every one of those 580 people I feel connected to on a different level because we, now it's like a flesh and bone relationship. It went from electronic and it transformed into this flesh and bone relationship where they replied or didn't reply. I see these names. So before I had a list of names. Mm-hmm. That's how I started the whole process. And it was like a list of random names that I kind of thought I knew how they were spelled and kind of knew what they did. And it turned into this absolute treasure trove of real relations.
So I have to ask, all right, I love that. And that's I think that's just what happens. And I love what you said about effort points. That's, I thought I have this keynote speech that I give called the 7 Gifts of Generosity. And it's how to add value to others, how to give massive, value first, and how to be generous. And only one of the gifts is money. It's treasure. They all start with the letter T, but the very first one is thought plus action. So a gift of generosity is you thinking about someone else and then taking action on their behalf. Now, this is Referrals podcast. So we talk a lot about referrals, believe it or not. Well, a referral is someone thinking about you and then taking action on your behalf to connect you to that person who needs your services. Well, if we want other people to take action like that, we need to model the behavior. And one way we can model the behavior is a handwritten note. We're thinking about them. We're taking action on their behalf. That is a model of a behavior of a referral. So thought plus action is the first gift of generosity. And in most cases, it doesn't cost you anything. In this case, it'll cost you maybe $3, but it's so powerful. It's such a powerful gift of generosity that we all own. We all have. We all, we have the ability to do this. And it's like, all right, why don't we? Well, we didn't have the goal. We didn't have the inspiration. We didn't have the intentionality, maybe. And now what I'm hoping is we do. And what's cool about November, and I don't want to make this a big giant ad for November. I want this to be a big giant ad for putting pen to paper and reaching out to somebody and connecting with them. But it's like with November, it's you could really get by with the only 30 notes you write this year could be the 30 notes that you write in November, and you would be doing yourself and at least 30 other people a huge service. And that's the beauty of it. I hope it inspires people to write all the time, but things happen. How many, and this is just like, I'm so curious about what you're doing. How many did you actually meet in person? I just have to ask that, because it could be zero, or did you actually end up meeting some in real life?
You mean the friends? Because I had
after you wrote them, right? So 580, did you end up meeting in real life 0 or 2 or 20 or 200 or yeah? Oh
no, there were many, and it was just first of all, like normal life events. My father died, and a bunch of people showed up and my brother and sister, we were in the hospital. They were laughing. They were like, "Here come the letter people."
The letter people. Oh my God, I love that.
The letter people.
The letter army. Watch out.
It's Amy's letter army. She wrote all those letters. And now these people are going to show up at all our stuff.
It's Amy's army. Are you kidding me?
That's beautiful.
So good. So
and then
good.
People would, just like, let's use you and I as an example. Like, let's say we went to high school together. Then all of a sudden you'd be like, because now you felt connected to me and I was deliberate. So you knew you mattered to me. You're like, I'm flying through Dayton, Ohio or Cincinnati. Do you want to get together and have a drink? Do you want to get together and coffee? So there was probably 20 people who I had an in-person meeting who I never would have. But the absolute best for me was after I wrote the book. And again, I didn't intend to write a book. I was 3/4 through the letters when I was like, this is so special. I really feel like now I've been entrusted with this incredible story, and my entire intention is to share it. That's why I'm talking to you today, and it's such a great connection between your story and my story. But, when I went on Dana and I went on like a 17-stop book tour, and people showed up in every city with their letters in pristine condition, like they were the rock star, like they were the best person at this book event because they had a letter, and so those people, a lot of people who got a letter showed up to the book events, which was probably my favorite part of the book tour, having that physical connection. Yeah.
You got to finally shake their hand, hug them, meet them in person, and there's just you talk about taking connectivity to the next level, and that's the other thing that I love about handwritten notes. I'll be honest with you. We talk about referrals. We talk about business. We talk about money. We talk about getting money. And I just want everybody, it's kind of a trick just to get you to live an awesome life. That's really what building your business on love, generosity, and appreciation really is about, is like when you start doing these things, you just become an awesome person. You write handwritten notes, you become an awesome person. And I just wrote today in my Facebook group, at joingengen.com. I just said, there is no such thing as work-life balance. Work-life balance is a myth, right? Life is so much more important than work. So why are we seeking work-life balance? Let's just have a lot of life. Let's just have life. And this is life. And you're talking about in real life and handwritten notes. I always talk about the marketing aspect of this is the most powerful marketing device that leaves your office on a daily basis is a handwritten note. because you know what everybody wants with their marketing? They want people to open it, read it, and keep it. And listen, there isn't an ad or a newspaper or anything that we have that we kept forever, but a handwritten note, we'll open it, we'll read it, we'll have an emotional connection with it, most likely, and we'll keep it forever. I have thrown away maybe 3 handwritten notes out of 10,000 plus that I've gotten, right? A 3. And they just, because it said thank you. And then they wrote thank you and their name. And it's like, okay, that's not really very specific. I have no idea what they're thinking about, but imagine a marketing piece that they're going to open maybe multiple times, read maybe multiple times, and they're going to keep it forever. Your friends are going to keep that note forever, Amy. They're going to keep it forever. When they pass away, their kids are going to read your representation, your legacy piece, this handwritten note. And you know what? They're going to get a feeling about maybe a mom or a dad or a grandfather or a grandmother, an angle perspective that they've never heard before. And they're going to go, because of your writing, they're going to go, man, my grandpa was a really awesome person.
Wow. Yeah, that's off the charts, humbling, and it's hard.
Truth.
I think that's an amazing thing. And again, that wasn't the intention at all. But
if it was your intention, it wouldn't have worked. That's the beauty of all this. The beauty of it is your intention was just to write about how awesome they were, how you're connected. And you said, thank them, support them, and just be there for them. And all right. So I have to ask, all right. So what was your biggest surprise that you got when you were either doing your Facebook research or in writing the letters? What was a surprise or two that you got?
Well, I think overwhelmingly the surprise was that it would mean that much. I just had no idea. And the ways that people showed that it meant so much wasn't just when they said it meant so much, wasn't just when they said, I'll save your letter for the rest of my life. It was the way they responded and the things they shared with me. People were so willing to share just intimate details of their life, and their address and whatever else I wanted, I could have, basically, because of this. And then it was the visceral reaction, like at the book signings, at the little meetings we had. People were hugging, like for real, like holding on for dear life, like this. And you could see it in their eyes, Michael, like this mattered so much to them. And over and over again, I was in, my hand was literally, I had a callus that was bleeding. And I was like, I've got to stop this. I kept accepting friendship requests on Facebook because I realized, because if I could be anyone I wanted to be ever, I would be the girl who wrote letters for 18 months. It was the very best version of me. It was the most hope I'll ever be filled with, and I think the other thing that surprised me is the person who got the most out of this whole thing is me and my family. I mean, it blew us up. I do have specific stories, of like you said, people living the perfect life and then sending me a handwritten letter and telling me what their real life looked like. There was those things. People tell me how great the timing was when I'm pulling names out of boxes. It's,
I love that you have a warrior wound. You've got a scar from taking action on a daily basis for good, like a superhero. You went out and you got like a bloody finger and callus. And like, I love that there's like a scar story. There can't be, there can't be all these stories where it was just all swimming and it was all, like you bled some literally for this.
No, literally. And I think the thing is, I love that I kept a journal because there's so many journal entries. It's like, I cannot write a freaking another letter. Like, this is over. And like, I was at Panera today with my best friend, Mary, and she was like, just shut up and write the letters. Like, you're on a roll. Like, you got to keep going. You don't understand. You've got to keep going. And, and it was in that way, it was a badass thing with the scar and the blood and the, and me like emotionally
did
overwhelmed.
You stamp it with the blood, right? Like you put the envelope together, right? You put the envelope together and then you put it in there and you just like, it's like, then you have like blood, just right
Instead
there.
Instead of a wax seal. Yeah.
Signed with DNA, right? I love it. Boom.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Right. All right. So All right. Well, we've kind of talked about like going through this. Let's rewind back and go back to like advice for someone who's thinking about maybe starting to writing the people they know. Maybe they want to do a project. So how do we help them get started?
Well, I think that the first thing I would recommend is that I think in just listening to this episode and just reflecting on Notevember, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners have already did, I guarantee you, because if it was me listening, there would be like 5 people who came to mind right away, maybe 3, maybe 10. I would write those on a piece of paper and say, these are my 10 targets. And I think the other thing I would encourage people to do, like my book and my story is not a blueprint. It's just an inspiration. Like I think everyone should approach this in their own way because there's no way to get wrong. But I'd write down those 10 names and I'd make it very doable. And I'd say, I'm giving myself, maybe you're going to do it within the confines of the Notevember, give yourself 10 minutes every morning, 15 minutes every morning. And it will, that small time commitment, because it does not take 30 minutes. You don't have to write 7 pages. It will blow up your life. Do not be overwhelmed, and just get yourself in a rhythm. Whatever your schedule is, the kids get on the bus. I sit down immediately at work. I do it on Saturday and Sundays. I take 20 minutes of my time. I would write the letter first, because what you said at the beginning was beautiful. Once you've taken the time to express yourself, you're going to want to mail it. You will become the FBI and the CIA to get the address. You will absolutely do that. And I think my process of looking at a Facebook profile is a good idea, just because you're like, what is this person to me and what does their life look like? I think those are 2 very good questions to ask yourself. But I think once you've written like 3 notes, you're gonna get there on your own, probably.
And the Facebook is a great way to break the writer's block. You may get writer's block when you're thinking about writing to someone, and yet then you check Facebook and they've got a new dog. Their son hit a home run. Whatever it may be, and then that's all you need to do to get started. You're going to talk about the dog. You're going to talk about the home run. And then it's going to roll out of you from there. You may not remember me, but we sat by each other at lunch in middle school. Do you remember the payphone? Like nobody has any payphones like that. And what's interesting about you using me with those examples is there was a payphone in our cafeteria. And I do remember all the middle school lunches and the square pizza and the sloppy spinach. Right. So
right.
I'm with you.
When I think the things that I thought I was going to say that were like, when you tell yourself, like you get in your own head and like, oh, that's dumb. I'm not going to say that to Michael. Michael's a grown ass man with a podcast. He's a keynote speaker. Like, I'm not going to say that to Michael. But those are things that meant the most to people. It's the little things that you remember, because that made them feel like they mattered to you. And that's super important to share those things and not hold yourself back. Because another like number 1 rule is it is never too late. I found this out hundreds and hundreds of times. It is never too late to tell someone you care, to say that you're sorry for a loss they saw for 10 years ago that you didn't know. It's never too late to congratulate someone on their award. It's never too late to say your kid got married 3 years ago and you had a grandkid. It is never too late. So don't tell yourself that, because the person on the other end of that note is going to be like, oh my God, they remembered I matter.
I got chills. That was it. That never, it's never too late. And it isn't, I work with a lot of real estate agents and they're like, well, that client closed 2 years ago. That client closed 5 years ago. It doesn't matter. Just write the note and say, I was thinking about you. And do you remember at closing when it got delayed 2 hours and man, we were sweating it. And then we got it together. It all happened. And, I hope you thoroughly enjoy your home today. And I just wanted to let you know, I was thinking about you. Sign it. And it's never too late. That is powerful. It's powerful because it's so true. So anything I didn't ask, I always like to ask this question in case, there's a story or something that you want to talk about that we didn't get a chance to talk about. But is there anything I didn't ask that I should have, or maybe final thoughts for the listeners?
Well, I think the only other thing I'd add is that I think one of the biggest things that came from the breadth of this whole project is the other thing a letter or a note has the power to do is, we live in such a divisive culture where we're all up in like, we stopped thinking, because I think before maybe, I don't know, 2016, we would look at people, because I wrote a lot of these letters during the 2016 presidential election cycle, when I feel like it seems like the hard lines were drawn, I'd be like, Michael, where is he from? What does he do? And now it's like, Michael, who do you vote for? And like, can you fit in my specific box for Michael that I need you to do? But,
Yeah.
but when you go through that process of, thinking of something to say, all that stuff, like all the religion and the politics and all the things that we've kind of, let create this great divide between us. All that still matters, but it's just like, woo, it starts to suddenly dissipate. And I think that's another power we have with this. And I liked what you said. This is a power that's accessible to every single one of us. And it's a small financial investment, and it's a little tiny time commitment.
Yeah, and what you said is all that other stuff tends to dissipate into the background and not it becomes as important as it should be, which is not important to human interaction. And you're exactly right. I've said on a couple of the podcasts that 2016, 2020, what happened is we became caged and enraged. As a consumer, we were caged, which enraged us anyway, but we were already a little enraged anyway. We got kind of a punch to the gut over the last 10 years. And what happened is now with 2023, and I see this continuing in 2024, is now people are realizing they're uncaged and they're looking to engage. They're really looking to engage with others. And a really great way to kind of engage gently. A phone call is a pretty abrupt engagement, especially out of the blue. But a handwritten note is like a passive, super friendly, soft way to take a step towards that person. Would you agree?
You are so correct, because letter writing is, it's intentional, it's meaningful, but it is non-intrusive. Because, and the great thing is, and this is another power, this free space it creates. People don't like when they get a text. This is all very obvious. It says read, blah, 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 or you get a return receipt on an email, or it got delivered, but a letter, you've got no clue, guys. You drop it in that blue box and you're like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, but it takes the other person off the hook too. Like you said, it's non-intrusive. The expectation level lowers, and then it creates this more, I really think, a more well thought out form of communication, but it absolutely it allows you to, put your hand across the divide without wondering if it's going to get shot off or not. It's like grasping the hand of friendship
without getting shot off. I love that. Because I think sometimes people feel like if they did call, the other person could shoot them through the phone. I do believe that's a thing, right? But with a handwritten note, it's like you can reach it across the divide, and people are not going to cut off your arm or shoot it off. I love that. And that actually leads me to a question. How often did you get letters back from sending them, but the address was wrong?
Oh, I got to be a pretty good stalker towards the end. Like I pretty much figured out how to, I wasn't, I didn't do anything untoward, but if I could not get your address, what I would ultimately do is send you a Facebook message. And that was more awkward than writing the letters, because then you were breaking through that non-instantaneous communication wall, but I probably 98% of the people gave me their physical address, which is crazy, I think. It's just at the beginning of the project, it was especially, meaningful because they didn't know about the letters. Once my friends started to figure out they were getting a letter, then they would like send me their address before I even drew their name. But
there you go. Please send me a letter. Here's my address.
Right.
Yeah.
But I probably had 12 that never got mailed, but beautiful story. 1 month ago, I had a friend contact me through Messenger and say, hey, I just read an article about your book. And I was your Facebook friend in 2016. I never got a letter. And I was like, hey, I never got a letter because you never sent me, I asked for the address, but that's no problem. And I made a copy of every letter because I realized when I wrote Dana for a year that I wasn't going to remember what I said. It was going to go beyond me. And so it was so gratifying. I took this guy's letter. I did a doubles, I copied it again and I mailed it to him. And it was such a beautiful transaction because he was so excited to finally receive this letter and be a part of this story. So it was like 6 years after I wrote, we counted the number of days, and wrote it on the letter. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. This is beautiful. And I will tell you, it's one of those where, well, first and foremost, everybody needs to check out Dear Dana, this book right here. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it from any independent anywhere, or you can go to Amy Daughters with an S at the end, amydaughters.com, multiple daughters, amydaughters.com. You need to join Amy's army, her amazing army, and become part of what she's doing. You're going to absolutely love the book. You're going to love the journey that she went on. It's not just a story about handwritten notes. It's about connections. It's about connectivity. Honestly, what connects us as human beings? I truly believe that's the power of this, a higher level of generosity. And yet it doesn't cost you, thousands of dollars to do. It's less than $3. And the impact that you can make and the value you can add is almost priceless. And that's what you've depicted here today. And I'm telling you, Amy, every once in a while, I feel like I should call you Dana. I don't know why. Your book should be Dear Amy, I think, because you need to write a note to yourself. You need to write a note to yourself about what you've achieved and done with this book. And I would read that. Like, I would totally read what you would write to yourself. And it needs to start with, Amy, you're freaking awesome, with 3 exclamation marks. And then just write about like what it was, what it did to you, what it did for you. You said it earlier that I hope everybody, all my listeners and viewers, embrace. And that is, the one who won the most in writing the 580 notes was Amy Daughters. And I think the thing that's amazing about that is that, well, you have to realize every one of the people who got these notes would probably say the one who won the most in this was me. My note's the best. My note's the best. My note from Amy is the best because it's about who? It's about them. And that's what's beautiful about this is everybody wins. You win, and you're the person receiving the note and reads the note wins. Today, we won. You and I won. And today, the listeners and the viewers won. That's a lot of wins. That's like win, 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 win. And Amy, I just want to say thank you so much for being here today and being our guest on Referrals Podcast. Just, you are awesome.
Thank you. I'm so humbled. And I think this marks the day that Notevember hooked up with Dear Dana and the Amy's Army, which I love, so this is the day we join forces. It's like the video games. You see the armies connecting. We connect an army. We're going to go take back the hope, Michael. We're going to go take back our hope together. So
totally. Spread the love.
Yep. I 100% appreciate you. I feel like I've been given the story that I'm the caretaker of. And so thank you so much for letting me share Dana and I's story with your audience. Very humbling.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love it. I love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I took, I've written a couple of handwritten notes myself, like about 10,000 in my life. And, even in 7L, the middle layer of 7L is handwritten notes. And that's how powerful I felt handwritten notes were. I made them their own level of communication when it comes to business communication. And I just wrote so many profound things about, like, she's relentless. She's relentless because her spirit was good, because the project is good. It wasn't like she was cold calling and interrupting people. She was literally writing handwritten notes, non-intrusive. She could do it on her own time. She could write what she wanted to write. She had no attachment to the outcome. She could send it and see what happens. And guess what? Great things happen. She would draw the name. Maybe sometimes you just print out a list of your CRM or print out a list from Excel or take your Christmas card list and just print it out, shred it, not quite shred it, cut it so that you've got the names, and then put it in a bowl, put it in a box, put it anywhere. And then you draw the name, and then you're going to go to Facebook. You're going to look it over and just check out anything current that's going to trigger your writing muscle, and then write the letter, handwritten note, and then get the address, stamp it, send it out. Super simple, but simple, powerful. She had a few rules. She had, just her big rule was she's going to finish Notevember. People, are you listening to me? 30 notes in 30 days. You can do it. People are badasses. The people that she knew, she found out that every one of her friends is a badass. That's what you're going to find out. And here's the thing. All your people are badasses. What's that make you? The law of association says you're a badass. If all your people you know are badasses. A great way to add value. It was a moment of love. Parker inspired this. What a great way to honor Parker, Dana's son. It was Parker. Yes. Yeah. What a great way to honor Dana's son, Parker. It was an average of 2.2 letters a day, which sometimes felt like a mountain. Some days was easy. And it's never too late. Ladies and gentlemen, it's never too late. It's never too late. Write your note today. Write a note today. Whoever that person you thought of today that you want to express some appreciation to, make sure you write it, because it's never, never too late. And last but not least, listen, if you haven't joined Notevember yet, check out Notevember.com. Just check it out. Go there. Let's say you feel like the investment's too much. Let me know. But I will tell you that we're going to ask you to invest some, because first of all, I put a lot of work into it. Second of all, is because if you don't have any skin in the game, you won't write the 30 notes. What we've discovered is the people who pay the most to do our courses do the best in our courses. So maybe you need to pay more. Like if it's whatever it is, and you go, you know what, I'm going to pay double, because if I know I'll pay double, then I for sure will write the notes. And, sometimes you got to be motivated that way, but let us know. And that's Notevember.com. Also, if you haven't joined, my army of ambassadors, go to joingengen.com. That's joingengen.com. Join the generosity generation. We'd love to have you. And last but not least, if you like today's podcast, make sure you rate it. Make sure you review it. Make sure you put your contact information in the review so people can refer you from your review of Referrals podcast. That does happen. And last, make sure you subscribe. Hit the subscribe button or hit the subscribe bell, whatever's on your notification. We'd love to have you as a subscriber, and you can join our army of ambassadors and our tribe of trust, which is called the Generosity Generation. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next time on Referrals Podcast. See you, everybody.